In this video, we're going to take a look at how to configure point-to-point FlexVPN on Cisco iOS devices. Just starting with a quick FlexVPN summary. FlexVPN combines multiple approaches to VPNs into one solution. So we can actually leverage one set of commands for multiple different types of VPNs, such as EasyVPN, DMVPN, traditional VPNs like crypto maps or those that utilize crypto maps, and even remote access VPNs. FlexVPN supports asymmetric authentication, so you can actually configure the local peer with, let's say, a pre-shared key that is different to the remote peer's pre-shared key. FlexVPN supports or makes use of IPv2 as opposed to IPv1 and is not backwards compatible with IPv1. It also supports hub and spoke deployments as well as full mesh deployments, so we can actually configure it in a way whereby we can allow for spoke-to-spoke communication. And just like if you've watched some of my previous VPN configuration videos, we can also leverage the use of the default configuration or what we call smart defaults. And this really helps us minimize the amount of configuration we have to do when setting up FlexVPN. When it comes to configuration, we have a few steps that we need to follow. So optionally, the first step would be to configure the IPv2 proposal. This is optional because we do or can leverage the smart defaults. Then we would configure the IPv2 policy. Then we would look at configuring the IPv2 keyring, or if we're using public key encryption, we could use or certificates, digital certificates, we could use PKI. After that, we would look at configuring the IPv2 profile. Then moving on to the IPsec configuration, we would then look at optionally configuring the IPsec transform set as well as the IPsec profile to bring all that together. And then we would then configure the interface that will be used for that formation of the VPN, and configure in this example where we're using point-to-point FlexVPN, we would look at configuring static routes. So in this particular demonstration, we're going to be making use of this lab. And for those that have watched the previous videos will know that this lab is pretty much or is the same as some of the other demonstrations I've done. The two sites we're going to focus on today are branch 1 as well as the partner site in the top right hand corner there, and we're actually going to form a VPN tunnel between both of those sites, and then we'll verify we can send traffic bidirectionally between VPC3 and VPC2. There is BGP configured between the different sites. However, the subnets behind each of the routers are not reachable, and that's what we're going to configure the VPN for in this particular demonstration. So we're not using HQ site and we're not using branch 2 site at the moment or in this demonstration. We're just focusing on branch 1 as well as the partner site. So without further ado, we will jump into our lab. And as I said, the only configuration that exists at the moment is that of the BGP and basic interface configuration. So if I just do show run here, we can see we've got our BGP configured and we've just got our inside and outside interface. And this is the router 10. So this is for branch 1. And then Similarly, we have router 11 here, which is for the partner site. And again, we've just got our BGP configuration as well as our interface configuration there. So we're going to configure FlexVPN and test that we, once configured, can reach both subnets behind each site and verify our FlexVPN configuration. So just to start, let's just take a quick look at our smart default. So if I just do show crypto IPv2, let's do policy default. We can see there that we have a default policy here that's configured. And if I let's do the same for profile. So we don't have anything there. So if we just go back here, we can see that our proposal is what is optional. Our policy, we've just seen that we also have a default policy there. So let's just take a look at our IPv2 proposals. IPv2 proposal, and we'll say default. And there you can also see that we've got that that default proposal. So you can see by default we've got a set of encryption algorithms. We've got our integrity configured. We got our pseudo random function, and we also have our Diffie-Hellman group there as well by default. So we'll try to keep things as simple as possible with this lab, and what we'll do is we'll configure a pre-shared key for each site. What we'll also do is we'll also demonstrate the instances where we can have asymmetric pre-shared keys in this instance. So to do that, let's start by going into global config, and then let's do crypto IPv2, and then say keyring, and then we need to give this a name. So let's just say router 10, or R10 is going to be R10 keyring, or KR. Let's do that. And then what we can do is if we just question mark here, we can see that we have a couple of commands. So if we just go into peer here, and we need to give it a name. So on this particular device, what we'll say is we'll say this is going to be for our partner peer. So we'll give this a name, partner peer, and then we should now have more configuration elements here, as you can see. So now what we can do is we can actually specify our address for the peer. So this is going to be that that outside physical interface of the peer. So in this example, it's going to be 209.209.209.10. So we'll specify that address there. And then we're going to say pre-shared key for, we have two options now. So we've got, you can see local and remote. So we'll say our local pre-shared key is going to be Cisco, all lowercase. And then what we can do for the remote peer is we can say that their pre-shared key is actually going to be Cisco 123, let's say. So that's where we can leverage that those different keys, or that asymmetric authentication for our IPv2. Exit out of this, and then what we'll do is we'll create our we do have smart defaults. So what we'll do is we'll jump straight to our profiles. So we'll say Crypto Ike v2 profile, and we need to give this a name. So we'll say partner profile. And what we'll do here is we'll match our I will just say authentication local is going to be pre-share, and then we need to do authentication remote is also going to be pre-share because we're using pre-share keys. And now we need to tie in that keyring that we just created. So we that keyring up here that we created, so R10KR, we need to tie this in here. So you can see it asks for whether we want to use AAA or whether we want to use local. So we'll use local because we created that keyring locally. So we said R10 keyring or KR. So that's the keyring there. So if we just go back to our configuration steps now, so we've configured our keyring in this example. We've just configured our Ike v2 profile. We didn't do the policy or the proposal because those are optional, or we should have really mentioned that that's optional there actually. What we can do now is we then need to look at, we don't really need to play with the transform sets because we can leverage the default one, but what we will do is we'll create the IPsec profile, and we'll specify or tie in the Ike v2 profile that we configured. So if we just come out of this now and we say do show crypto Ike v2, if we do show crypto IPsec profile rather, we can see here with our IPsec profile, our default IPsec profile, you can see there that we have a default transform set that is applied there. And that's that transform set that we, maybe I should just go back to that diagram just for clarity, but that's the default transform set that exists as well, and is tied to the default IPsec profile there. As you can see, we got some security association lifetime, etc. configured by default there. So what we are going to do is we can actually leverage the default profile, and we can change settings of the default profile even though it's not recommended, or we can just create our own profile. So we'll create our own profile, we'll leave the default one, so we'll say crypto IPsec profile, and then we'll give this a profile of partner IPsec profile, let's say profile. And then what we'll do now is we'll set the Ike v2 profile, so that profile that we configured above for Ike v2, which is our partner profile here. We'll specify that here. So if we just say partner profile, and that is done. So if we just do show IPsec profile partner IPsec profile, if I specify crypto, you can see there that it's still going to apply the default transform set because we've actually not created our own. But what we do have is our own profile where we can see our own IPsec profile, and we have our own IPv2 profile that's been applied to this, whereas on the default one you can see that there isn't any there. So once we've done that, we are pretty much good now to configure our interface, our tunnel interface. So we just go to interface tunnel 0, let's say, and let's give it an IP address of, let's use our tunnel IP, so let's say 192.168.10.1 in this instance. Let's just say 255, so we just say /24 there, and then we need to specify the tunnel source, which is going to be our outside interface of router 10, so this is going to be Ethernet 00. Then we need to specify the tunnel destination, which in this case is going to be the physical IP address of the partner site, so 209.209.209.10. And then what we'll do is we'll specify the, or we'll apply the IPsec profile that we configured. So we'll say tunnel protection, IPsec profile, and then this is where we specify our profile. So we called it partner IPsec profile. IPsec profile. There we go. And then once that's done, we can see that the state changes to down, and that's because we've not configured the other side yet. So that'll change once we have configured the other side and initiated some traffic. But what we can do, because we're going to make use of static routes, we actually need to specify what interesting traffic we want, or which traffic we want to route via the tunnel. So to do that, we need to, if we're focusing right now on the branch site and we're trying to reach the partner site subnet of 10.0.10/24, we need to create a route for that to go, or to route via the tunnel. So we'll say IP route 10.0.10.0.255.255.255.0, and we want to route that via tunnel 0. All right, cool. So with regards to our configuration there, we should be good and ready to configure our partner site. So it's again the same set of configurations. We just need to make sure that IP addresses and pre-shared keys, etc., are all matching and aligned. So what we'll do is, again, we start off with the keyring. So we'll say crypto keyring, or we'll say crypto IPv2 keyring rather, and then we'll give this a name. So what we'll say, we'll call this R11 keyring. And just as we did with the other device, we'll specify our peer. And let's just go back, because I want to try to keep the config consistent. So where we specified our peer, we said partner. So in this case, we'll say branch 1. So we'll say branch 1. And now we can specify our peer address. So that, again, this is going to be that physical interface address. So this is going to be 209.209.209.6. And then we'll specify our pre-shared key for local. And if you recall, our pre-shared key was Cisco 123, or at least that's what we configured for our peer. So you can see here our remote key Cisco 123. So our local key has to be Cisco 123, whereas our remote key will be Cisco in this instance, and that's reflected for the branch 1 router. So once we've done that, again, we'll now go into our crypto. Let me get out there. Crypto IPv2 profile. And then we'll configure our profile. So we'll call this one, what did we call the other one? partner profile. So in this case, we'll call this branch 1 profile. And now what we'll do is we'll specify our keyring. So we'll say keyring local, and it was R11KR. And then we'll say authentication local pre-share, authentication remote pre-share as well. So we're going to use pre-share keys for both sides there. And we'll come out of that and we'll create our crypto IPsec profile. And we'll call this one branch 1 IPsec profile. And this is where we again set that IPv2 profile. Set IPv2 profile, and then we specify our branch 1 profile. Once we've done that, we jump into our tunnel interface, or we create that, and we give that an IP address, in this case of 192.168.10.2. All right. And then what we need to do is we specify our tunnel source, which is the outside physical interface, Ethernet 00 of route 11. Oops, I need to do tunnel source. And then we can now do tunnel destination. Again, this is going to be the physical IP address of router 10, so it'll be .6. And then you can see that state changes to up. And then the last thing we need to do is apply our tunnel protection profile, IPsec profile, which is going to be our branch 1 IPsec, branch 1 IPsec profile. And then we should see a few changes there, which is good. Now what we need to do is we will let's come out of that and let's do an IP route to account for the traffic we want to reach via the tunnel. So this is going to be 172.16.20.0. All right, cool. So do show run. Let's do show IP interface brief. So we can see that we've got our tunnel that's configured. We can see that the state is actually down at the moment for our protocol on both sides. So we need to make sure we have a look at that. If we have a look at our configuration, we can see that we've configured our keyring, we've got our IPv2 profile, we've got our IPsec profile, and then we've got the configuration on the tunnel itself as well. So we know that the tunnel is down at the moment. Let's just try to, from our branch 1 side, let's say if we can ping the partners subnet 10.0.10.10. You can see there that obviously that is unreachable. So we need to take a look at the configuration and see if we can work out why it's unreachable. So if we just do show IP interface brief, again on the branch side, we can see that that tunnel is currently down. If we do show crypto v2 SA, we don't have any SAs. So we don't have any security association between the two. So let me add some more configuration and we should see if that makes a change, because we've not specified, as I said a little bit earlier on, we didn't specify any identities within our IPv2 profile. So let's take a look at adding that and see whether that makes a difference. If we have a look here, you can see for our IPv2 profile, you can see no match identity or certificate statement on our router 10. And similarly, if you go to route 11, you can also see the same thing. So we need to specify our identity in our IKV2 profile. So what we'll do is we'll basically just do a show run. We've got our host name, but we don't have an identity for this device per se. So what we'll do is we'll add that now for both devices, and then we'll update the profiles, and we should see a difference then. So if we say IP domain name, we'll say network wizkid.co.uk, and then what we'll do is we will go into our profile, our IKV2 profile. So if I just copy that quickly, and then what we can do is we can now specify our identity. So if we say identity local is going to be r10.networkwizkid.co.uk. Let's change that actually to FQDN. Like that. And you can see there we've got a few other options we can use if we choose to do so. We'll just stick with the FQDN for now. And what we'll do then is we'll say match identity remote. So we're going to match the FQDN that we're going to create, and we'll say this is going to be r11.networkwizkid.co.uk. Okay, so once we've done that, we'll go again across to the other device, and we'll say IP domain name networkwizkid.co.uk, and then we need to go into our IKV2 profile here. So we'll just quickly get into that there, and we'll say identity local FQDN, and this is going to be r11.networkwizkid.co.uk, and we'll say match identity remote FQDN is r10.networkwizkid.co.uk. So let's just do a quick show run on that. So we can see that we've got our identity configured there, and now you can actually see that the tunnel state has changed to up in this instance, which is good. So if we just do show IP interface brief, you can see now tunnel status is showing up. So we need to make sure that we've got that identity configured. Do show the interface brief, and again on the branch side we can also see that that is up as well. So let's do show crypto IKV2 SA. So now we can see we've actually got a security association between the two sites, which is excellent. If I do show crypto IPsec SA, you can also see that we have our first to our IPsec security association up here. So technically we should be able to ping now, whereas we couldn't before. So this is from our VPC2. We're going to try and ping the VPC3 at the partner site now. So if I just do up arrow and ping, we can now see that that is pinging as we would expect. So let's just again take a look at that. So you can see there that the in caps and D caps are moving up. If I just refresh that, you can see it's going up, which is a good sign and what we expect. So that is great. So this is our FlexVPN configuration in place now for our point-to-point VPN using IKV2. So we can do show crypto IKV2 session. It just gives it a little bit more information there about our session. We can see, stats if we wanted to look at the SA stats. So again, you can see that we've got some requests, outgoing and incoming requests as well. You can see that our total security association account is 1. That's with our peer as well. So that's all there is really to it. So I hope you found that video useful. I wanted to leave the identity out because it's when I was first sort of learning and going through the configuration, it's something that I pretty much always missed in the configuration element, and I wanted to kind of just show that the cannot be formed without that identity. So you really need to make sure that you've got that in place. I will be looking at doing some more FlexVPN related configuration videos, just focusing on different really use cases and ways to configure FlexVPN with different devices. I'll probably throw the ASA in there that we've got on our topology as well, just to show how FlexVPN configuration differs. So if you are interested in that, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comment section. Thank you for watching.